Washington Commanders have lost their last 3 games, and Cliff Kingsbury is a big reason why. But I want to take a look at the first game that they lost on this 3-game losing streak against the Steelers. In that matchup, it was a good game. The offense fizzled out in the second half. That is a game that they should have won against the Steelers. But it came down to the defense letting up a lot of big plays to George Pickens and to Mike Williams at the end of the game. And they were just a couple of inches away from going out there and possibly walking off with a field goal. Now, I have a lot to say about the kicker when I get into the Dallas Cowboys matchup, but they're just a couple of key plays away from defeating the Steelers in that matchup. And on the day, Jayden Daniels did look good. I will say this, he does not look 100% healthy. When you look at him on the sideline, he has a heating pack on his stomach, and he suffered a rib injury against the Carolina Panthers early in that matchup, and he did not return. Now, the next week he was able to play, but he does not have the same accuracy throwing across the middle of the field and throwing to the sideline that he once had before he suffered that rib injury. I'm not trying to make excuses here, but he is definitely not the same quarterback that he was before and after that injury. But when I look at Cliff Kingsbury, he did not move Terry McLaurin a lot in that matchup against the Steelers. He left him on the outside a lot. This is a wide receiver that can play the slot position, and you can move him from left to right. When I look at the Commanders, you're already coming into this season with a lot of question marks in the wide receiving room besides Terry McLaurin. Because let's be real here, Noah Brown's your number 2 wide receiver. He's not a consistent number 2, and he's not a real number 2 option. They were hoping that Jahan Dotson was going to be that guy. He was a first-round pick for a reason, and they traded him to the Philadelphia Eagles. Great trade for the Commanders, by the way, because he's not doing much with the Eagles. He was a bust with the Commanders, but they were hoping that he was going to be a complimentary receiver next to Terry McLaurin. That was not the case. You also have Luke McCaffrey, solid wide receiver, but he has not become a consistent threat. So besides Terry McLaurin, the only other guy that you have is Zach Ertz. Cliff Kingsbury is not doing the best job right now in terms of moving Terry McLaurin around. And it brings me over into the game against the Philadelphia Eagles. They were up in this matchup, and Terry McLaurin did little to nothing in this game because Quinyon Mitchell was on him the entire game. Most offensive coordinators, especially the elite ones, they remove their key weapons around. Look at what Sean McVay does with Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. Look at what other teams do with their top wide receivers. They move them around. And the same with the Arizona Cardinals. They move Marvin Harrison Jr. around. When I look at this situation with Cliff Kingsbury, this is a man that does not have the best track record, coaching-wise, even dating back to college. He had a losing season before he signed with the Arizona Cardinals. Cliff Kingsbury, in the first half of the season with Patrick Mahomes, phenomenal at Texas Tech. Second half, not as much. With the Arizona Cardinals, they'll start off red hot. In the second half, not that many adjustments, they will get exposed. I'm seeing the same pattern right here with Cliff Kingsbury. You can make the excuses, hey, the wide receiving core is not the best outside of Terry McLaurin, but you still have a generational quarterback in Jayden Daniels. When I look at Cliff Kingsbury in this matchup against the Philadelphia Eagles, it would be easy to move Terry McLaurin to the opposite side of the field. Quinyon Mitchell is not a travel corner right now. And most cornerbacks in the NFL are not. Just a select few will travel around with the wide receiver. And if he does travel around with him, use more motion coming across the middle of the field. Something the Washington Commanders have not done in the last 3 games. And they did a lot of that against the Cincinnati Bengals many weeks ago. In that matchup where Jayden Daniels only had 2 incompletions. Granted, it's against one of the worst defenses in the NFL, but you saw them make adjustments. And he used the running backs more so in that matchup than he has in any other matchup up to this point. And he did do a good job with the misdirection in the first half with Brian Robinson Jr. and Austin Eckler against the Philadelphia Eagles. But in the second half, you went generic with your passing concepts. It's too many times you're depending on Jayden Daniels to go out there and save you. And today against the Dallas Cowboys, first half, they were anemic. They didn't do anything in the first half. They did little to nothing. In the second half, they finally got things going. This sucked for the Washington Commanders because they did everything right in the second half to win this game, except for the special teams. Kevontae Turpin had a fumble, hits a spin move, 99-yard kick return, straight to the house. Special teams is not doing good on the return team. They were terrible there. You have Terry McLaurin. Catches a pass from Jayden Daniels, basically another Hail Mary play. It goes for 80-plus yards down the field. All the kicker has to do is make the extra point. This is not a field goal in this situation. This is an extra point. and he misses it far to the left. And then the next thing you know, they go for an onside kick. The Cowboys run it back. We're talking about an extra point away from possibly going into overtime. The Washington Commanders are headed into the wrong direction. They have a bye week in a couple of weeks. That bye week cannot come fast enough for this young team. Dan Quinn needs to come in and rally the troops like how he did many years ago with the Atlanta Falcons. Because the Atlanta Falcons were in a similar situation. They went out there and they won their division. I'm not saying that they're going to go out there and win their division because they suffered a tough loss against the Dallas Cowboys today and against the Philadelphia Eagles a couple weeks ago on Thursday night. But they can still make the NFL playoffs. But that's not a fully guaranteed deal. You have to go out there and finish out the games and do not start off slow. And Cliff Kingsbury has to make more adjustments. The Cliff Kingsbury in the first half of this season, he looked like a different man. Over the last 2 games, he looks like the Cliff Kingsbury that was coaching with the Arizona Cardinals and Kyler Murray and the guy that was coaching at Texas Tech. He is not making life easy right now for Jayden Daniels, and the offensive line has taken a major step back. And also for context, against the Steelers, they're missing their top tackle in Andrew Wiley at the right tackle position. And Austin Eckler right now is dealing with a concussion, and I hope that he will be okay. He was knocked out of the game against the Dallas Cowboys late to get them into a situation where they could possibly go out there and throw a Hail Mary. And he's been a very good running back and an extra weapon coming out of the backfield. Jayden Daniels does have to play better. He has been severely inaccurate for his standards in the last 3 games, especially against the Steelers. But once again, he's dealing with a lot of pressure in his face. That's one of the best defenses in the NFL. And then to turn around on short week's notice to go against the Philadelphia Eagles, that is very tough. This was a winnable game today against the Dallas Cowboys. This is a very unacceptable loss because your special teams let you down and your offense did nothing in the first half. You lost to Cooper Rush and Enrico Dwaddle. That's who you lost to. Enrico was running all over the place. I also look at it from this standpoint with the Washington Commanders. Their rushing defense has not been particularly good this season. They're in the bottom half of the league in terms of stopping the run. And they really miss having an interior presence on that defensive line. You have Johnny Newton there. I think that he's going to be a very good player long term. He did jump off sides against the Steelers. That's another thing you could talk about. They're going to get the ball back. It's 4th and 1. Russell Wilson does a silent count. Johnny Newton, who is a rookie, he jumps off sides. And it basically ices out the game against the Steelers. They could have had the chance to go out there and get the football back. But Johnny Newton is not even supposed to be in this situation. Jonathan Allen was their starting defensive tackle, and he got injured early in the season. You have him and Daron Payne, who are both very good against the run and can push the pocket in the interior. You have Dorrance Armstrong, who is a very good pass rusher. Dante Fowler has completely went out there and revitalized his career. 8.5 sacks on the season, 1 forced fumble, 1 interception. They have all the guys that can go back there and pin their ears back, but they cannot stop the run. And that has been a constant with Dan Quinn in his career, even dating back to the Seattle Seahawks. They just worry about getting to the quarterback, just causing disruption, and just contain a run here and there. The rushing defense has to be better. Because what teams are going to start to do, they're going to beat you with time of possession. They're going to run the football. Now, they did a very good job against the Steelers in that matchup. They stopped Najee Harris, but they had a lot of problems stopping Jaylen Warren. It's the faster, shiftier running backs that give them a lot of problems out of the backfield instead of the bigger running backs that take a while to go out there and fully accelerate. But they'll go out there and they'll stop the run against those big physical tanks. But this is what teams will do. They will use time possession against you, and they'll work off a play action. This secondary, they're in the top half of the league statistically, but they give up too many chunk plays. Marshawn Lattimore has yet to practice with the Commanders. He's dealing with a hamstring injury. This is why the New Orleans Saints had no problems moving on from Marshawn Lattimore. Very good cornerback when he's on the field, but the last 2 to 3 years, he has dealt with injuries. They need him right now because he's a guy that can go out there and take away a lot of those splash plays going deep down the field. Because when you bring him in, it changes the entire secondary. Benjamin St. Juste is no longer your true number 1 cornerback. You'll have Marshawn Lattimore, and you'll have Mike Sainristil, the rookie, and playing the nickel and the nickel only. Marshawn Lattimore needs to come with the Commanders within the next couple of weeks. Maybe he'll be on the team after the bye week, but they need his presence right now to take away those splash and those chunk plays. because it was so many times in Dallas Cowboys game, they're getting the football to CeeDee Lamb on a consistent basis. And then you saw what happened with Cooper Rush. He throws the football deep in the middle of the field to the tight end. You have Marshawn Lattimore out there. You can have him in a one-on-one situation with the best wide receiver. And you don't have to worry about busted coverages on the back end. The defense is starting to give up major plays. And we saw this against the Philadelphia Eagles, and we saw this against the Steelers. Like I mentioned, Mike Williams had the moon ball bomb that went for 30 yards. That was a touchdown to put the Steelers up 28-27. Against the Philadelphia Eagles, they had a tough time stopping the run and stopping A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith and crew. This is a young football team. And a couple of weeks ago, you had a lot of people saying, hey, Jayden Daniels, he could be in the MVP conversation. Let's push the kid there. You have to be careful doing that to rookies. I understand the Washington Commander fan base. They're very excited. They have not had a team in this situation in a very long time. I still do believe that they will make the NFL playoffs, but they are still a young football team. On the offensive end, you're dealing with a rookie quarterback. Brian Robinson Jr., you can say that he's a veteran running back, and most definitely with Austin Eckler, he's been in the NFL for many years now, and the same with Terry McLaurin, who's been a phenomenal wide receiver, and you have Zach Ertz. But besides that, you have a lot of young guys on the offensive end, and you still have a relatively young coach in Cliff Kingsbury to figure things out. I like the Washington Commanders. They're in a rough patch right now. I'm not going to say go out there and basically give up on this team and their playoff aspirations. I still do believe that they're going to be a dangerous threat for the rest of the year. Because when you look at the rest of their schedule, it's not that tough. They face the Tennessee Titans next week. That could be a very easy game for them. But at the same time, the Tennessee Titans, they have a top defense in this league. Then they face the New Orleans Saints. That could be a homecoming game for Marshawn Lattimore. Then they face the Philadelphia Eagles at home. They face the Atlanta Falcons at home. And then they close out against the Dallas Cowboys on the road. Not the hardest schedule, not the easiest schedule, but it's a lot of winnable games here. All they have to do is win 2 to 3 games to lock in a spot in the NFL playoffs. It's going to be tough in the NFC because I do not believe that they can compete with the top tier teams. I don't believe that they can compete with a team like the Green Bay Packers with how they're playing right now, and the same with the Minnesota Vikings and most definitely the Detroit Lions. I think all of those teams will give the Washington Commanders a lot of problems. But at the same time, if Cliff Kingsbury goes out there and he finds a better way to move Terry McLaurin around and other guys can step up in the wide receiving room like Luke McCaffrey and also Noah Brown, and Zach Ertz can continue to be that veteran at that tight end spot, maybe they can shock people over the next few weeks. But you do worry about teams that do this. Maybe they have peaked early on this season. I really hope that's not the case because I'm a huge Jayden Daniels fan and I've been singing his praises since he came out of LSU. But regardless, this has been a very successful season up to this point for the Washington Commanders. When you compare to where they were last season with Sam Howell, Eric Bieniemy, and Ron Rivera, and Jack Del Rio, they fired him after the Thanksgiving game. How bad that team was, I understand it's a completely different year, completely different team. It seems like it's a different organization. I know if you're a Commanders fan, you want to see your team make the NFL playoffs. But I would say this, if you're panicking right now, slow down. Like I mentioned, just a couple plays away from beating a veteran Steelers team. You went out there on a short week's notice against the Philadelphia Eagles with a hurt quarterback and Jayden Daniels. And today's matchup, you had the game. It was in your hands. Special teams let you down. The kicker misses an extra point. Devontae Turpin, kick return. Offside kick return. That's 14 points right there. So you just dial in and clean up these little mistakes. You could be right back on top. Everything will be okay. But let me know in the comment section below how you guys feel about the Washington Commanders and Cliff Kingsbury moving forward. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button. Most importantly, want each and every last one of you guys stay safe, stay positive. Thanks for the video, guys. God bless. Peace.